When you think about how a pressure cooker actually operates, the magic isn't the heat.
Right.
The magic is the seal. You lock that heavy lid down super tight, you completely eliminate any airflow, and you basically trap the rising temperature inside.
Yeah, the pressure just builds and builds until...
Until the internal structure of whatever you're cooking completely breaks down.
Yeah.
And if the release valve gets blocked, the very steel keeping the contents safe becomes the reason the whole thing violently explodes.
Oh, absolutely. It is a brutal method of transformation. Like, the thicker the walls, the more devastating the eventual rupture is going to be.
Exactly. And that brings us directly into today's deep dive. We're looking exclusively at the source material detailing session 18 of this campaign. And, Axholm Fortress has essentially become a giant stone pressure cooker.
It really has.
The heavy physical gates of this ancient dwarven ruin are locked down tight. Inside, you have the displaced gnomes of Nomengard and, the terrified refugees of Phandalin.
Yeah.
All just packed together in the dark. And outside, just a mile away, a massive, highly organized orc army is sharpening weapons and preparing to lay siege. So our mission today for this deep dive is to look at how this adventuring party spent their final crucial hours of preparation.
Because they aren't just reinforcing walls here.
No, not at all. They were dealing with massive interpersonal drama, hidden agendas, and literally deals with devils.
Yeah, and in historical and fantasy siege warfare alike, the greatest existential threat to a fortress rarely comes from the army at the gates.
Wait, really? You think the inside is worse?
Oh, for sure. It comes from the rapid breakdown of trust within the walls. When you are trapped, every secret feels like treason. The external pressure of the orc army is simply an accelerator for the internal fractures that honestly already existed in this party.
That makes so much sense. So, okay, let's start with securing the physical perimeter, because the notes here on how they handle the fortress layout are just wild.
Oh yeah, the tunnel.
All right, so Radir, Vitrovia, and Zerk, who's the gnome rogue, they're sweeping the lower levels. They stumble into this hidden treasure chamber, move a heavy chest, and just discover a deep miner's passage.
A dirt tunnel.
A dirt tunnel that basically bypasses the impenetrable stone walls and leads all the way outside the fortress. I'm looking at this from a defensive standpoint, and a secret dirt tunnel in a dwarven stronghold feels like, a catastrophic structural flaw.
Well, what's fascinating here is it's the ultimate backdoor. Dwarven fortresses are designed to funnel enemies into kill zones, right?
Right, choke points.
Exactly. So a forgotten miner's passage completely nullifies that architectural advantage. It's a huge vulnerability. But, for a tracked party, it also represents a potential desperate escape route.
True. So they decide to check it out. But the exit is blocked by a massive boulder. So Vitrovia casts the Reduce spell. Yeah. Now, mechanically, this spell essentially compresses the physical mass and density of an object, shrinking this giant boulder down to the size of a pebble so they can squeeze past. But the absolute second they step out into the evening air, they are staring dead at 3 orc scouts.
Just right there.
Right there. And Vitrovia does not hesitate. She instantly casts Moonbeam and just obliterates them.
Yeah.
But here's the massive problem. It's night.
Yeah.
A Moonbeam isn't a flashlight. It is a 40-foot tall, blazing cylinder of radiant magical energy.
It is essentially a neon flare signaling their exact location to an enemy encampment a mile away.
Exactly.
The tactical situation goes from a quiet scouting mission to a 5-alarm emergency in a fraction of a second. If that orc army sees the light and investigates, they'll find the back door, and Axholm falls before the siege even begins.
So they have to work at frantic speed. Vitrovia drops the spell, they shrink the boulder again, physically drag 3 heavy dead orcs inside the dirt tunnel, and push the boulder back to seal the hole just in time.
Yeah, they cover the whole thing up like nothing happened.
Right, and I have to wonder about the leadership implications here. Is keeping this tunnel and the dead scouts a secret from the rest of the refugees, a tactical masterstroke to prevent a mass panic? Or is it a massive liability to not tell your military commanders that there is a literal hole in the wall?
Well, what's fascinating here is the psychology of that moment. The physical act of dragging those bodies into the dark and shoving a rock over them, it perfectly mirrors the mental state of these heroes.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They are incredibly capable of solving immediate violent problems, but their absolute first instinct is to bury the evidence. They're keeping secrets from their own allies because they are terrified of what the truth will do to the fragile peace inside the fortress.
It establishes a pattern of isolation, doesn't it?
It really does. A pattern that will haunt them by the end of the night.
Yeah. And that psychological burden of burying secrets isn't just happening down in the tunnel, though. It's directly impacting how they are planning the actual war effort upstairs.
The war room.
Right. So Tibor Wester has taken the old dwarven throne room and turned it into a war room. The leaders are assigning roles. Ritter is put in charge of the cavalry. Boris is heading up the medical squad. And Whiffer is assigned to lead the vanguard.
Yeah, Whiffer on the vanguard.
And I'm reading this, and I have to throw a flag on the play here. Whiffer on the frontline vanguard. He literally just died.
Yeah, he did.
His soul was violently pulled back from the outer planes by Boris in the last major fight. Is putting him at the very tip of the spear a massive tactical error? Or is he just, pushing himself too hard?
Well, you have to look at the mechanics of what Whiffer is currently enduring. His soul is quite literally fragmented.
Right, because of his sister.
Exactly. He carries the radiant angelic half, while his twin sister, who is trapped down in the infernal realm of Avernus, carries the demonic half. So coming back from the dead is traumatizing enough.
Super traumatizing.
Super traumatizing. But returning to life feeling inherently incomplete, that triggers a desperate, overwhelming need to prove your utility. Volunteering for the vanguard isn't necessarily a tactical choice for him, it's a trauma response.
He needs to stand at the very front to assure himself and the party that he is still the impenetrable shield they rely on.
Yeah, he's basically trying to outrun his own ghost.
But he isn't holding that front line alone. Boris, Whiffer, and Zerk head down to Area A9 to inspect the pirate crew that was hired as a militia. And these pirates are restless.
I mean, they are sailors used to the open ocean, now trapped in a claustrophobic mountain ruin waiting to be slaughtered by orcs.
Right. And the inclusion of this pirate militia is one of the most strategically and honestly narratively compelling elements of the defense force. They aren't generic, faceless mercenaries.
No, take Steed Bonnet, the gentleman pirate, and Calico Zack. Both of them are recent converts to Timora, the goddess of luck, after the party defeated the Talos cult at the Tower of Storms.
So I see Steed is assigned to command the heavy ballistas on the bulwarks, which makes total sense given his naval artillery experience. But Calico Zack is placed at the front gate, the most dangerous choke point.
Yep.
And the notes mention Zack was almost lynched by the Phandalin refugees earlier because he still has his old Talos cult tattoos. Why on earth would you put the guy that terrifies the refugees at the front door? That just seems like a recipe for a riot.
On paper, yeah, it looks like a terrible idea, but sociologically, it is brilliant. Zack is standing at that gate specifically to prove to those traumatized refugees that redemption is real.
Oh, I see.
By taking the deadliest position in the fortress, he is offering his own body as proof that a former pirate can be a true protector. It is a really powerful morale play. And then you look up the balcony and you have Finnick the Crow.
Right, he was a sniper in the ship's crow's nest, but the notes say he was horribly scarred by harpies. He can't fight in melee combat anymore.
Mechanically, melee is totally out of the question for him. But Factore, one of the gnomes, built an auto-loading crossbow, and it requires someone with unmatched eyesight and steady nerves to operate.
Oh, that's perfect for him.
Yeah, Finnick is sitting in the ultimate sniper perch, providing covering fire. He found a way to be lethal without needing to hold a front line.
But, okay, the pirate that really stands out in these notes to me is Barnacle Bill. The history here is incredibly dark. Bill was a sailor on the SS Pyramid of Dawn, which is the exact same ship that Boris, the party's cleric, used to serve on before it sank.
The tragedy of Barnacle Bill is profound. He was brainwashed by a siren named Alana and forced to commit horrific atrocities for the cult of Talos.
His mind was utterly hijacked.
Exactly. And now that the spell is broken and his mind is his own again, he is fighting in this heavy, magical barnacle armor with absolute suicidal fury. He has zero intention of surviving the siege of Axholm.
Man. So he is hoping that dying to protect these innocent people will buy him some measure of forgiveness in the afterlife.
Yeah, it is incredibly heavy.
The psychological weight in this fortress is just suffocating. And while this grim tactical mapping is happening, there's pure daytime television family drama unfolding in the medical wing.
Oh, the triage hospital.
Yes. So Boris and Whiffer are helping Adabra Gwyn set up this field hospital. They have this 16-year-old clerical intern named Teach, who by all accounts is utterly incompetent. And Teach casually drops a bombshell.
The dad reveal.
Yeah, the pirate captain, Lorca O'Shea, is his father. So right in the middle of preparing for an apocalyptic battle, you have estranged, awkward family dynamics playing out over the bandages.
It perfectly highlights the beautiful absurdity of the adventuring life. Like, the world might be ending tomorrow at dawn, but today you still have to deal with your embarrassing dad. It really humanizes the grim reality of a siege.
Totally. So, back to the war effort. They need actionable intel on the orcs. Zerg volunteers to do a scouting run. Under the cover of night, they lower this 3-foot-tall gnome down out of an arrow slit on a rope.
A classic rogue move.
Now, mechanically, Zerg completely crushes his stealth checks. He is essentially a ghost in the dark, sneaking right up to the edge of the orc encampment. But his perception rolls are terrible.
This is a great example of the difference between sneaking and observing. He can move without making a sound, but he simply cannot process the tactical information in front of him.
Right, so he clearly sees the heavy siege weapons, like the massive catapults and battering rams, but because of those low rolls, he can't count the numbers, and he fails to spot any unique enemy units or commanders. He's invisible, but effectively blind to the details.
It is the fog of war in its purest form. He brings back enough intelligence to confirm they are in serious, immediate trouble, but not enough specific data to formulate a perfect counter-strategy.
Okay, let's unpack this journey back to the fortress, though, because this is where things get really bizarre. Zerg is intercepted in the dark by a woman named Morana.
Yes.
She is an agent from the cult of Merkel, the god of death. And she has this incredibly unassuming, cheerful Minnesota accent.
It's totally out of place.
Just happily handing him an assassination contract in the middle of war zone. She tells him it's a conditional contract, and the activation requirement hasn't triggered yet, and he just pockets it and gets hoisted back up into Axholm.
The juxtaposition here is brilliant. You have this clandestine, potentially lethal meeting with a death cultist, and Zerg transitions directly from that into a dinner party.
Right. The dinner party in the Grand Hall. Because how do you maintain morale in a pressure cooker? The gnomes of Gnomengard attempt to cook a feast to lift everyone's spirits.
A noble effort.
Very noble. One of the gnomes, Kibbletib, approaches Boris and hands him the famous Gnomengard dance bell. He asks Boris to ring it during the feast to get the refugees dancing and smiling. But Zerg, using his rogue sleight of hand, secretly swaps the magic bell in Boris's pocket for a broken, mundane one.
Yeah.
And I just have to ask, why? Why sabotage your own team's morale event?
Well, it speaks to Zerg's chaotic nature, and perhaps a deep-seated discomfort with genuine vulnerability. When the tension is this high, some characters resort to pranks as a defense mechanism to exert control over a situation they otherwise feel totally powerless in.
Well, the prank is a spectacular disaster. Whiffer stands up to deliver this grand, soaring, inspirational speech about hope and survival. The refugees are leaning in. He cues Boris.
Build-up is huge.
The tension is high. Everyone is desperate for a magical release. Boris rings the bell, and it just makes this pathetic, clunky garbage sound. Nothing happens.
Oh, it's so bad.
It's like a perfectly planned Super Bowl halftime show where the power goes out after the first note, like pulling the pin on a grenade to save your squad, only to realize it's a dud. The tension doesn't go away. It just curdles into awkward, heavy panic. The air just leaves the room.
It is the worst possible outcome for a morale-boosting exercise.
So Vitrovia tries to save the moment. She casts Thaumaturgy to make the ground shake. Now, mechanically, Thaumaturgy is a minor magical parlor trick used to amplify sound or cause harmless tremors.
Right.
She's trying to make it seem like Boris is channeling divine power. But she does it so obviously that she accidentally reveals a massive secret to Boris.
Yeah, this is a huge moment.
All those previous times in the campaign where Boris thought his desperate prayers were causing the earth to shake, it was just Vitrovia casting Thaumaturgy to prank him.
It is a devastating realization for Boris. I mean, he is a cleric struggling deeply with his faith, desperately looking for signs from his god, only to realize his most profound spiritual moments were just his friend messing with him.
The room is already spiraling, so Reader decides to, quote-unquote, help by shooting eldritch blasts into the air, hoping they look like fireworks.
Which is a terrible idea.
A terrible idea. Eldritch blast isn't a sparkler. It is a crackling beam of raw, destructive force. To a room full of traumatized refugees who recently survived a dragon attack, sudden explosions of force, magic, look, and sound like they are under artillery fire. Total screaming panic erupts.
It perfectly encapsulates the dark, chaotic humor of this group. The apocalypse is waiting outside the walls, and inside, these heroes are a fumbling mess of misread social cues and disastrous magical pranks.
Amidst the screaming and the terrible bell, Red Ear just starts dancing by himself without music. And incredibly, He actually manages to charm a woman named Lyra into spending the night with him.
A rare win for Red Ear.
A rare win. But that win evaporates entirely because the tone of this session takes a massive nosedive once everyone goes to sleep. In the dead of night, Red Ear is visited in his room by Ganthor, his devil patron from the infernal realms.
Things get very serious very quickly here.
Yeah. Ganthor owes a massive debt to someone in Avernus, and he gives Red Ear an unthinkable absolute order. Go to the winch, open the physical gates of Axholm, and let the orcs slaughter everyone inside to pay off the debt and souls.
This is the ultimate test for a warlock. Redu has spent this entire campaign chafing against this infernal leash, and faced with the mass murder of his friends and innocent refugees, he finally says no. He outright refuses his patron.
Which is a huge character milestone. But Ganthor doesn't even blink. He just smiles and tries to enact the disobedience clause in their infernal contract.
Oh.
Mechanically, breaking a pact like this would essentially incinerate Red Ear's soul from the inside out. Infernal contracts aren't just paper. They are binding magical law.
And this is where the mechanics of Dungeons & Dragons lore intersect brilliantly with legal theory. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Reader is not a single mind.
Right, he's got roommates in his head.
Exactly. He shares his body with an ancient spirit of vengeance named Zarathos and an alternate innocent monk persona named Sock. When Ganthor attempts to trigger the fiery punishment, Zarathos advises Reader to instantly relinquish control of the physical body to the Sock persona.
Wait, hold on. Are you telling me that because they swapped personalities, the magic couldn't work?
Precisely. Look at the exact wording of the contract. When Ganthor drafted it, it was legally signed by and specifically bound to the singular entity known as Reader Tzok.
Oh, wow.
So by shifting consciousness so that only the pure Tzok persona is active, the devil's magic fails to find purchase. The specific soul signature it is looking to punish is totally dormant. It is a literal, supernatural, legal loophole.
That is absolutely wild. So Saul just stares blankly at the devil, completely immune to the hellfire. But Ganthor is a devil. He doesn't leave things to chance. Okay, let's unpack this backup plan. When the loophole blocks him, Ganthor activates his contingency. And that backup plan is the conditional contract sitting in Zerx's pocket down the hall.
This is how cascading magical effects work. The absolute moment Redder defies the devil, the condition in Zerx's scroll is met, the magic activates.
Just like that?
Yep. Zerx's reads the scroll from the cult of Merkel. It officially designates Redder Tzok as an enemy of the Lord of Bones. The contract mandates that Zerx's, who is a scion of Merkel, must execute the final rites on Redder Tzok before the next moon rises.
He is legally and magically obligated to murder his friend.
Yes. And if Zerx's fails, or refuses to carry out the assassination, the punishment isn't just his own death. The contract dictates eternal torment in the bone legions of the underworld.
So morning arrives. The sun comes up, and the tension inside Axholm is thick enough to cut with a broadsword. Saw goes straight to Boris, the cleric, and confesses everything about Ganthor's visit and the demand to open the gates to the orcs.
A smart move on his part.
Very smart.
Mm-hmm.
But while they are talking, Zerx's walks into the room. He pulls out the freshly activated assassination contract and shows it to Boris. But he deliberately angles his body so that Sock cannot see what is written on the paper.
It is the ultimate exclusion. Think about the vessel known as Reader. He is already carrying the immense, exhausting psychological weight of containing multiple identities. Now, the one thing keeping him grounded in reality...
The trust of his party.
Exactly. The trust of his party is actively being weaponized and withheld from him.
Talos is innocent, but he isn't stupid. He demands to see the paper. He knows it's about him. Zerx's refuses. And then something unprecedented in the history of this campaign happens. The fragmentation inside Red Ear's mind just vanishes. The boundaries dissolve.
Oh, the fuse?
Yes. Red Ear Sog and the Spirit of Vengeance, Zarathos, all fuse their voices together in a single unified moment of pure, blinding anger. All three entities demand to see the paper.
It is the first time they have ever operated in total unison. The internal walls came down not through healing, but driven entirely by the searing pain of betrayal.
And I have to ask you, the listener, to just put yourself in that stone room for a second. You are Zerx's. You are holding a piece of paper that condemns your friend to death by your own hand. Do you show him the paper, admitting you are magically bound to assassinate him before moonrise? Or do you hide it, protecting yourself from the wrath of three fused minds, but permanently destroying the trust between you?
It is an impossible tactical and ethical dilemma. Showing the paper might trigger an immediate, lethal fight. Hiding it guarantees a psychological rupture.
And Zerg holds steadfast. He looks this fused, furious entity in the eyes and flatly refuses to show him the contract.
The physical and magical reaction to that refusal is catastrophic.
Yeah, feeling completely betrayed by the people he has bled alongside, the innocent soft persona simply breaks. He retreats entirely, vanishing deep into the recesses of their shared mind, and the original angry, cynical Reader persona snaps violently back into total control of the body.
Oh boy.
Feeling that his party has turned on him, Radier decides to turn on them. In a split second, he casts Misty Step.
And mechanically, Misty Step allows a magic user to fold space and instantly teleport up to 30 feet. You can't tackle him, you can't grab him, he is just gone.
Radier materializes directly next to the heavy iron winch that controls the Axholm portcullis. He grabs the massive handles, fully intending to lift the physical gates for the Orc army, let them flood into the courtyard and fulfill Ganthor's twisted wishes. And that is exactly where the session ends, on a massive fortress-ending cliffhanger.
It is a phenomenal piece of storytelling because it highlights the true nature of evil manipulation. Ganthor realized that his infernal magic couldn't break Raidier's defiance.
Right, the loophole.
Exactly. He didn't need to overpower Raidier with fire and brimstone, and he didn't even need the Orc army to breach the walls. All the devil needed to do was introduce a single, tiny seed of distrust among the party members.
He used their own secret-keeping habits against them. They started the night burying bodies in a tunnel, and they ended the morning burying truths from each other.
Exactly. The internal breakdown of communication accomplished in 5 minutes what strict infernal law could not achieve. The heroes built their own trap, locked the lid from the inside, and turned up the heat.
So what does this all mean for the party moving forward? I mean, they are trapped in a sealed dwarven ruin with a highly organized Orc army outside, and one of their own party members is holding the keys to the front door, driven mad by paranoia and betrayal.
It really forces us to confront an uncomfortable reality about the nature of the promises these characters have made. I'll leave you with this final thought to mull over.
Please do.
When you are bound by conflicting absolute oaths like Zerk, sworn to the god of death, Redder bound to a devil of Avernus, Boris championing the goddess of luck, is true selfless loyalty to your friends even possible? Or are you all just waiting for the inevitable moment when your contracts collide and you are forced to choose which master you actually serve?
Wow. That is a chilling question to end on. The heavy lid is locked, the heat is on, and the Axholm pressure cooker hasn't just boiled over, it's actively exploding from the inside out. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the fray. We'll leave you to ponder whether the mighty walls of Axholm will fall to the catapults and battering rams of the Orcs, or by the fractured minds of its own desperate protectors.